Flash episode 21, Grodd Lives. Now, we're leading up to the last two episodes this season, and this one I think a lot of people were really excited for. And I know I was when it was like, it's Grodd coming in. I don't know too much about Gorilla Grodd, but it's a gorilla with mind control, so it's hard not to make that really cool and get excited for that. And I was really curious how this episode was going to play out because I was wondering if things were going to stay 100% in the sewer or if Grodd would kind of get revealed to the outside world like it's a giant effing gorilla in the city. But I like the way that they did it. It turned out that this episode was sort of a placement episode for the Reverse Flash. It's like, alright, instead of the Reverse Flash, after everything that happened last week, we get an episode with another huge character. While the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, he kind of does his thing. He's here and there throughout the episode and at the end, and I'm definitely going to get to the stuff that they did with him, which I thought was actually pretty awesome in this episode. But we get to see Gorilla Grodd come in. It's like, alright, it starts off simple. We get this case that Barry and Joe are working. It's like, alright, this is the case they have. A bunch of gold is being stolen. And things kind of blend together. It's like they're looking for Eddie. They don't find him at all throughout this episode, which was just genius. And once again, save that for the end. But, the case comes up. It's like, alright, this is the case I'm working on. Don't know where Eddie is. Looked all over the freaking place. I'm going to at least solve this mission. And then, boom, he gets hit with mind control. The person who's robbing the place, who looked like one of the guys from the video game Army of Two, they both they both get a little whammied, which leads into Iris coming into things, which I really thought was cool in this episode. I honestly didn't think they would do it like that. I figured she's gonna know, and maybe season finale, something like that, episode just before the season finale, she would kind of say like, alright, I know that you're the Flash. She would kind of muster up the courage. But I love the way that they did it. It was like she had like these hopes, and it'd been days since the last episode. So it's like she had these hopes and things, and it's like she knew who the Flash was, and there were moments where things kind of went a little back and forth, like multiple man stuff, or every man, sorry. And then we have this moment in the last episode where she realizes that it's Barry, and in this one she just goes for it. It's like, now you know how it feels to be whammied. And she sketches everyone off guard, and then just like, what the heck do we do now? And I just love the way they did it. And I wasn't a huge fan of how angry she was at everyone else for not telling her, but at the same time, it's always a little hard to argue with those people, because it's like we see it from like the objective viewpoint, where it's like, well, all this crazy stuff happened, of course, they aren't going to tell you. And especially in the case of parents, I think it's more than anyone else. Like if it's like friends, it's like, I got superpowers, like I have super speed and stuff, I wouldn't be telling everybody. But you tell certain people. And really, Barry kind of didn't tell anyone, if I remember right, from the very first episode. It was all a little bit just, this is kind of what happened. Like some random stuff happened, Joe ended up finding out because of that, and so that's kind of how they went along with things. So, it was just simple. That's just kind of how they went with it. And I enjoyed that. That was very organic. And so Joe was trying to protect his daughter, and Iris kind of got upset about that. And she was upset with her father, and then Barry kind of says, like, you should be upset with me, because I easily could have told you he doesn't control me. He was just trying to protect you, like we both were. And I thought it made sense. Like, from both sides of the fence, it did make a lot of sense. And it was just like, I'm never on the side of the person who seems like super angry, and that's mostly because it's like, well, I mean, it's superhumans. You're just a human. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like, you can't come in and invent more technology like Caitlin and Cisco. You aren't a cop like Joe and Eddie, which, the Eddie thing was also, like, she came in, it was kind of funny, because she came in at like the last minute, and it was just like, some circumstantial stuff came up, and like that's the only reason Eddie knew. So it was kind of funny. It was like, my father knew, my boyfriend knew before I knew, everyone knows except for me. So she does feel like the odd person out, and it's like, then of course she gets hit with the fact that Harrison Wells is the one that is the one that killed Barry's mother, and so she's getting all this information kind of just thrown at her at once. And it's hard to, kind of deal with that stuff. Like, you're the Flash, and I finally realized it. Um, Joe knew. Eddie knew. This guy killed your mother, and I thought this guy was a great guy, just like you did. And all this has just been a great big game to him or something, and he's kidnapping people. He's got effing giant telepathic gorillas coming after us. All sorts of stuff is kind of flying at her. So it does make a lot of sense, and I understand it. And ultimately, she showed that she is a very, very important part of the team that no one else can fill. She has a role that is very, very personal to the person under the mask, and that's her connection to Barry and how he feels when she's around, and how he feels that he can be a stronger person even when he's afraid. He can feel very powerful. And it was just really cool. And, Caitlin even says that at the end, it's not just the three of us, it's actually the four of us. And that's going to be exciting to see. Like, once, it's like Harrison Wells is revealed to be the Reverse Flash, so he's out, and now someone has kind of come in and taken his place, but filled a different role. So they didn't, completely replace him. Just the spot is filled, but the role is very, very different. So I'm excited to see how that stuff plays out with Iris in season 2, and what role she kind of takes on. Because I'm assuming she'll still have the same role as pretty much everyone else, where they're at Star Labs, and Barry kind of goes out and does his thing as the Flash. But with her having this different role, who knows how things will really play out. Like I said, she can't exactly build tech, but she can definitely learn how to, read the maps and do this and do that, and really help out the team and stuff. So I'd love to see how they're going to play that out in season 2. I think it should be really exciting, and maybe she'll be able to get a little bit of extra information still working, for the newspaper. So I'm excited for that. I think it'll be really cool to see how she continues to build inside of this team, now that she knows everything, now that she's a part of knowing this big secret, and helping out Barry and helping out the rest of the team. So I can't wait to see that. I thought it was really cool that they just did it where she found out at the end of the last one. It was probably 10-15 minutes into this episode, and it's like boom, she comes in and tells everyone like, hey, I know you're the Flash. So I love the fact that they kind of hinted at it, and they just gave it to us, and which we've all been waiting for really since the alternate timeline thing. So it was like, it was great that they didn't bother waiting until, the episode before last, or like in the season finale, like, I know you're the Flash, and then it, cuts off or something. So I think it was really well done, it was very well played, and, everything kind of just worked out by the end of the episode, which is, typical. Like, had a bunch of issues. We almost got squished by a giant gorilla. Being mad, not that big of a deal. So I love how that played out. Barry versus Gorilla Grodd was definitely interesting. They tried to do the super speed punch, the Mach 1 punch. It didn't exactly work this time. Gorilla Grodd was just a little bit too fast for Barry, and he was smart, so he probably already knew what was happening. It was just like, boom, he stopped that stuff. And, it was interesting. It was kind of fun to watch that happen, and Barry have to deal with this enemy that's like way stronger than him, and it's not a human person that is been buffed up to superhuman levels. This is just a gorilla. Like, generally speaking, they are, just period, they are far stronger than us. Not just generally, period, they are stronger than us. So it was fun to watch him have to deal with that. He does like the super speed punches, and it doesn't work, and then he gets tossed through a building, or not through a building, but through the wall and stuff, and then he gets hit with the telepathy, and that's when Iris kind of really fills that role that no one else could possibly fill. And it was really cool. He dodges the train. That was something, like, in that one scene alone, I thought there were, like, two really weird things. The first thing is that after he dodged the train, there was another one that came, like, right after it. That just does not happen. It was, like, it was, like, 30 seconds. It was not even 30 seconds. It was, like, 10 seconds. He dodged this train. As soon as it was gone, Gorilla Grodd jumps. And then another train just hits him when Barry jumps out of the way. And then the second thing happened. It was like, I don't know if a train would just keep on keeping on after it hits a gorilla. Like, I'm not 100% sure. I could be totally wrong. But it seemed like, it's a gorilla. They're gorillas. Like, I just don't think a train would just hit that and keep going. Like, I don't know. Like, and I guess it is, considering it's a train and it's not like it's just starting off or anything. It's going at like full speed. So I guess, it does make a lot of sense in one way, but it also just seemed like there was just no slowdown. It's just like boom. And it reminds me of I think it was only like the second or third episode. The train stuff that they do whenever they do CG trains, it always stands out to me. Like when they had Captain Cole when he was first in the show, and he like jumped on a moving train that like it started off like way at the end of the screen, and it was like flying past, and he just jumped. It was basically like he went off camera, but they did it as if he just jumped on this train that was flying at full speed past the thing, and I was like, that just doesn't work. And it kind of just hits me again, like weird, the weird physics that they do with trains always kind of throws me off. Or like, he dodges a train. 10 seconds later, here's another train on the exact same track. Like it wasn't a different track or anything. It was the one right against the wall. And he just got right out of the way again and backed up against the wall. And it was like the same thing. So that really stood out to me. It was hard not to miss that two trains on one track came by like 10 seconds apart. And the fact that the train didn't seem to have like any stutter whatsoever after like hitting this gorilla in midair. It was like nothing happened, and that was pretty much it. It was just a gorilla hitting the thing. And I was thinking, like, I wonder if in the first train people were coming by like, is that a gorilla? And then it's just, they shoot right past it. But I did love the fight. I thought it was really cool. Gorilla Guy kind of just gets taken away, but he's at the end of the episode, and he's like climbing up the thing, which I think kind of answers Cisco's question: is he like King Kong or Planet of the Apes? I think it's a blend of both, but he definitely had a King Kong moment at the end, and then he kind of just jumps in the air, and that's when it cuts off and goes to the sort of after credit scene, how they kind of do it, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's gonna have like any part in the show. Like honestly, I thought the way they did it, it seemed like he went up and he was jumping towards Barry and Iris, but at the same time he was so far away. I know he wasn't making that jump from that. It was just like he was jumping towards the camera, but he was out of the sewers. He was like climbing up a building and roaring basically and jumping from rooftop to rooftop. So I don't know if it's gonna play any part. I'm sure it won't. I think it was just to have like a cool scene where Gorilla Grodd jumps from like a tower and flies at the camera, so it's not gonna have any real big part in the story. But it was just interesting. Like it was an interesting way to end it, where he's jumping from a tower and he's roaring in midair. Like it's nighttime, but still, it's a gorilla roaring and jumping from one building to the next. So I don't think we're gonna see Gorilla Grodd. I would love to see him maybe in the season finale. I don't think we will in the next one, because that's going to be like the big team up episode with Flash, Arrow, and Firestorm's coming back. Which, if you guys had seen the trailers, beforehand, I've been waiting for this for like maybe 3 weeks, almost a month, because I saw the trailer a while back, and I was incredibly excited for it. So we finally get that next week, which is going to be really, really sweet, and we might get Gorilla Grodd actually in the season finale, depending on what happens in the next episode. But it should be really cool. Like we got like the little build up, and ultimately we find out that Grodd was a complete distraction by Wells. Like Grodd is like under his control. He trusts him, and I'm assuming it's because Wells let Grodd out. Like Thawne knew, like, this is Gorilla Grodd. We do these experiments. If I let him out, I can manipulate him enough to where he'll trust me. So, like we might get to see him if he feels like he needs help after the next episode, which I assume he will, because it's going to be 3-on-1. He's going to get his butt whooped, even, at super speeds. He'll probably think he needs help, and then he'll be like, hey, bring Gorilla Grodd back in to try to take on the team. So, it should be cool, but we got, like, the nice little hints with the Thawne, lineage going on, and yeah, like, he was kind of messed up with Eddie. It was just like, he's talking about like how he's a genius, like I'm a genius in my timeline, so imagine what that makes me here, because, primitive tech and everything. And then he's like, I have a distinguished name from a distinguished family and stuff, and you're like the one person in the entire Thawne, bloodline that's like nothing. Like you're just uneventful. You're a beat cop that does nothing, doesn't become a politician. You don't become, an entrepreneur. None of that. You're just this guy. You do nothing. No one remembers you. And you don't even get the girl. He spoils that for him. And it's like, read the headline, like Barry ends up marrying Iris and stuff. And it was just like, he just crushed him 100%. And it was kind of messed up. And I think when they do get him back, that's kind of going to be how they're going to lead to Barry marrying Iris, because Eddie's going to know, and he's going to be like, well, I can't mess up the future. Maybe that'll be his thought process. And it's like, as much as I want to be with you, I kind of have to follow this line because that's how things are supposed to be. So I don't know, like I thought that was kind of funny how they did it, but at the same time it was messed up. He even found the ring just to throw it a second time, which I thought was kind of funny because he tossed it after he kidnapped him the first time, like like we aren't gonna need this, and then he's telling him about the future. It's like, I guess we're gonna have to give this ring back to Grandma Agnes, and he just tosses it off again. It's like he tossed the ring, went and found it, and then opened it up and threw it again just to like taunt him or something. So it was just funny and like randomly evil for him to do that. He's giving him all this future info and basically just crushing him. Like, you're nothing. Like, you exist, but you just fade away into history like nobody. Like tons of other random people. You're just you. Like, that's it. You beat cop, nothing big, and that's all that happens. So it was a cool little moment, and then we don't know what he's working on in this episode. It's something, and then by the end we get to see, which I thought was a great reveal. He's been working on recreating the particle accelerator, which I have to assume is to do a second event to basically, give him his powers back permanently and maybe boost him up, like back to the level that he was at before he was shot back in time. So I think that's kind of the plan that he has. I love the fact that he's in this place. It's like we assume it's a sewer or something because that's how it looks, like some secret little area that's kind of like a sewer. And, he climbs up the ladder and it's like, oh, he's been inside Star Labs the entire time. Like, ever since he kidnapped him, he was inside of the he was inside the particle accelerator, inside the actual tube. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was actually pretty sweet. It was just like evil genius type stuff. Like, he was under the nose the entire time. And of course, they had it where he when he like put his hand over the little concrete and like the little hole showed up. I thought that was kind of funny and cool because it's like, oh, a little future tech thing. But it was just like he could have just easily had that there, couldn't he? Like, they didn't need to be all fancy with the secret, hand unlock and all that stuff. So I thought that was kind of funny too. But I love this episode. We got General Eiling, who's officially been released by the end of this episode. So, he mentions that he knows Barry. He's decided, he mentions that he never would have come after him, or if he wanted to, he would have done it already. So he's off. He's going to be hunting Gorilla Grodd. That was kind of cool. Like, he didn't have much of a role outside of kind of leading to Gorilla Grodd, which is fine by me because he had like 2 whole episodes, which were pretty big to begin with. And one thing that did come out of his character coming back was they mentioned him knowing that Barry was the Flash. I could have sworn he told them that he knew Barry was the Flash. Like, he said that in like the second episode he was there when they were dealing with the firestorm stuff, because he was like, oh, I saw you lift your mask up in like the first episode with the woman that ended up exploding out in the water. And I was trying to remember, I even tried looking it up, like, did his memory get wiped during one of those episodes or something? Because they were all like, how did he know I was the Flash? And I could have sworn he said that to Barry. Like, he actually talked to Barry, like, I know that you're, even when he was in this costume, he was like, I know you're Barry Allen because you took your mask off one time. So maybe his mind did get wiped, and I just can't remember that happening. But I could have sworn they all knew that he knew exactly who Barry was. Like, maybe something happened, like I said, I just don't remember. But that, as soon as he said that, I was like, didn't they already know that he knew? But I guess it doesn't matter because ultimately he decided, we're fine. Like, I'm not going to come after you. Maybe he knew that he was going to be useful ahead of time. He figured yeah, he's a good kid or something. I don't know, because he goes after everybody else. So we still don't know his exact logic behind it, but I'm sure we'll see him come back. Gorilla Grodd, like I said, may or may not come back in the season finale. I think it would be cool to actually see, Reverse Flash and Gorilla Grodd together on screen, and it's like you have the speed and you have the muscle, which would be incredibly dangerous for them. But we'll just have to wait and see. We got 2 more episodes left. The next one should be amazing with 3 superheroes teaming up: Flash, Arrow, and Firestorm together. Arrow is having like a huge team up. They got Katana in like full costume in one of the next 2 episodes. So, like tomorrow is I think tomorrow we have Arrow, and then next week is going to actually be the season finale for Arrow, and then we have 2 more weeks of Flash left. So we have tomorrow, and then next week for Arrow, and then 2 more weeks of Flash. So we're definitely down to the very end. I'm really excited for both season finales. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, I have to ask, what do you guys think of Gorilla Grodd's first full episode? I'm sure he'll have many more. I'm sure we're going to see him and Eiling together in a bunch of episodes. Maybe not a bunch, but in some more episodes next season that I don't think he'll be captured by the end of this one. But I definitely loved him. It was cool to, see him walking around, see him fighting against Barry, just like super speed punch, just totally blocked that junk. Which I also thought still should have affected him at least somewhat. I know he's a gorilla, but that was like a 5-mile run and he punched him and it was like nothing and he just threw him. But I definitely loved it. It was cool to hear the voice, see him walking around and jumping. The ending was cool, even if it doesn't lead to anything. He just jumped towards the camera because it looked sweet. I loved it, but like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.